Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. As always, grateful and appreciative to have you guys along on this Tuesday. Like I said, looking forward to having Mike Decourcy on. Plenty to talk about as well in both college basketball, college football. There's a big football game coming up as well. Who you got? Kind of hard to go against the Chiefs, man. It's just kind of hard to go against the Chiefs. What is new in your world? Leonard Hamilton, the latest college basketball coach, calling it quits. Please tell me it's because of NIL. And you're a Florida State coach. Leonard Hamilton announced Monday he's stepping down at the end of the season, ending a 23-year career in Tallahassee at Florida State. Hamilton, 76, will end his Florida State tenure as the winningest coach in school history and the top 5 in wins in history of the ACC. He's deeply thankful for the tremendous support. He's proud of the quality of young men he's had the privilege to lead. I'm just kind of jumping over. I was waiting for the big, I don't see anything. So, yeah, he's 76. So there you go. Now, he is being sued by 6 former players, basketball players from the 23-24 season, alleging he failed to make good on a promise to get each of them $250,000 in name, image, and likeness money. So there's that. The former players allege Hamilton promised them the money from his business partners. The lawsuit says they walked out of a practice in the past season over the missed payments and intended to boycott a February 17th game against Duke. They ended up playing. The Seminoles lost amid a guarantee from Hamilton that they would be paid, but they never were, according to the suit. Hamilton's best stretch in charge of Florida State came in 2017 to 2021. So at least it has something to do with NIL. Crazy. Got themselves in a little bind there. At least Leonard did. Overpromise, underdelivered. But that's just the latest. There's plenty more. Last night, any action that was going on. Iowa State, Kansas. Kansas gets the win. That's Iowa State is number 8. So kind of a nice rebound for Kansas. Jumping around, I don't see any. I'm trying to look to see any other big names. Jump to the Big Ten to see who was playing last night. Nebraska. Oh, that was Sunday. There were no games yesterday on Monday for the Big Ten. But that is not going to be the case for tonight. 5 games on the slate. Purdue at Iowa. That'll be interesting. But that's kind of up Purdue's alley, to be honest with you. Iowa getting them to run, I think Purdue, not to say Purdue is definitely going to win that game. Hey, USC beat Michigan State. Will never say who could beat whom. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. Minnesota goes to Penn State. USC, the Dragon Slayer, they head to Northwestern. Michigan State goes to UCLA. Now, that's going to be an interesting game. That very well could be the second loss by Sparty, in essence, putting them in a tie with Purdue at the top of the Big Ten standings. And, of course, Indiana takes on Wisconsin tonight, number 21 with Wisconsin, in a place they have not won since 1998. It's crazy. That's just one of the craziest things. Indiana had won, I think, 31 straight. Yeah, 31 straight and even higher numbers than that overall. But it is what it is. Crazy as can be. But those are the games that are on the docket for this evening. But those are a couple. Oh, man. That Michigan at UCLA game, that's at 10 o'clock on Peacock. Indiana also on Peacock, people. That's at 9 o'clock. What the heck? Peacock has 3 games tonight. Purdue and Iowa at 7. I miss. Yeah. Well, that's dumb. Why would you have a game on at 9 and 10? But whatever. Purdue at Iowa, that's at 7 o'clock on Peacock. Indiana at Wisconsin, that is at 9. The late game on Peacock. And Michigan State at UCLA at 10 on Peacock. The other games are on BTN. But those are some very interesting games. Purdue and Michigan State both. Because that Big Ten race has become real. And it's going to remain that way. Whew. Indiana going to Wisconsin. They have not won there since 1998. It's crazy. They had the 20-point lead a few years ago and coughed that up. Hello, Paul from New Albany, or I think, am I reading that right? I'm not sure. Appreciate everybody on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, no matter where or how you're listening. Our great affiliates around the state, like 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call in Evansville, and the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and the only sports station in town, 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne. Keep it locked right here. No reason to go anywhere else. You've got it locked where you need to be. We've got lots more coming up. The great Mike Decourcy set to join us. We'll do that on the backside of this first break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're going to hear some hard truth today. Back right after this.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Looking forward to talking to Mike Decourcy here in a little bit. Some college football news, lots of news going on. And let's see, where did I lose that? For one thing, Belichick has put the state on notice on what it's like to be recruited by the GOAT. Apparently. Can you imagine him out recruiting? North Carolina's Providence Day School is used to seeing the big names in college football roam its halls. In the 2024 class, that school had starting quarterback signed with Michigan this cycle. One of its tackles is the number 7 overall in the nation, going to Tennessee. Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Shane Beamer. People like that all the time. But a little something different on January 7th. That's when Bill Belichick rolled in. That'll probably get your attention. So I'm sure his recruiting efforts are not going to go for naught. Who's going to say? I'm telling you. I bet you. I can't say how much success they'll have because I don't know what their offense will be like, but it won't be. I'm going to be hard pressed to think that they're not going to have success. That's going to be something to be determined. But we'll see. What do you think? What are your thoughts? I just think that he loves to meet a challenge, and he's not going to let that go unchecked. The great Mike Decourcy joining us now. Get him in here. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
I'm well, Jim. How are you?
Doing fine. I was just talking about Bill Belichick and being recruited by him. I said, can you imagine? Because there's an article I was reading that this school is used to having certain coaches come in, but when Bill Belichick comes in, it's kind of different. And it is. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and in school, and I'd see coaches come in to recruit different guys, not me, other people. But Bob Knight came in once, and it was like there was this bubble around him, an aura, really, seriously.
Yes.
But it actually stayed like that even later. I mean, he just had this. Some people have that aura around them. He was one of those people. But yeah, can you imagine Bill Belichick coming? Son, would you like to come play football for me? Let's see, Mr. 8-time Super Bowl winner. Yes. Who's going to say no to that? But
I think you'd be surprised. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to be suspect if you're a high school football prospect and the person that you'd be going to work for has never developed a prospect from the high school level to the college level. Literally never. And so, yeah, I think that there will be some suspicion about that. And I also think that money is such an important factor that if all things are equal and everybody's offering the same money, would you go to play for Ryan Day? Or would you go to play for Bill Belichick, who, although he has been a massively successful NFL coach, has no college experience at all? And I don't know whether he knows how to make me a better player.
It'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with, North Carolina. How successful they can be next year. I wonder if he looks at what Kurt Signetti did at that turnaround and says, hey, this is something that can be done. This is something that we can go in and do.
Oh, I think he does. And I think the problem with things like what Kurt did is that everybody thinks that they can do that. And not everybody can. And Kurt, it starts with being a terrific football coach. So obviously Bill has that covered. But sometimes it's just a confluence of circumstance that you take the best advantage of and you don't blow the opportunity. And you create that circumstance to an extent by recruiting guys who can make you better. But gosh, I mean, we can't deny that some of it was the advantage of the schedule. The schedule worked out really well for Kurt. You have to take advantage of those things, and you have to put your team to be in to be in position to take advantage of those things. But I mean, people look at what Pat Kelsey is doing at Louisville, for instance, not far down the road from you, and they think, okay, well, why is John Calipari not doing the exact same thing at Arkansas? Well, because the circumstances are different. He's not in the ACC. He's in the most difficult league in college basketball. The ACC, by comparison, is a ride on a candy truck right now. You're not going to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Auburn, and Kentucky for that matter. You're going to Virginia and Boston College and Florida State. It's just not as hard. And so I don't think that you can say they're the same thing, but people want the same results. So I don't know exactly how it'll work out for Bill. He might do exactly what Kurt did or something very close to it, or it may take time, or it may never arrive. We just don't know.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. Some movement in college at Alabama as Ryan Grubb looks to be coming back as the offensive coordinator for Kalen DeBoer, whom he held that role at Washington, and he stayed up in Washington, went with the Seahawks when they changed. Nick Sheridan, former IU OC and assistant, was in that position, and I don't know if he was let go or moved out of that position. I'm not sure. It doesn't really say. I haven't found it, but
with what's being thrown around to coordinators in college now, what do you think?
How about that?
I think that probably Alabama said, we need the guy that made Michael Penix a first-round pick. Let's go pay him. That's what I would guess. After what Penn State had decided to reward their new defensive coordinator with, I would imagine that's most likely the scenario that led him to Alabama.
Yeah, and it is not going to stop, just like everything else. Once that ball gets rolling, it usually does not slow down until it hits a wall at some point.
Yeah, which is fine, Jim. I just don't want to hear anybody else say that there's no money for players anymore. Yeah. If you can pay a DC $3 million a year, you can pay there's money for the players. Stop saying that you're going to run out of money. And I'm not saying the schools are saying that. I'm saying that all the people around that are trying to create this idea that this is unsustainable, blah, blah, blah. If it's not sustainable, we wouldn't see that. We'd see somebody say, just can't afford that. Just can't afford to pay my defensive coordinator that much money. But it's not happening. They're finding the money. So if they can find that money, they will find the money for the athletes. And I'm I'm weary of the people who keep bashing college sports, the direction of college sports, saying that it's bad or unsustainable or that or all that. It's not bad for the players to be getting money. It's only bad if the players don't do good things with it, whether it's charitable work or whether it's saving their money for when they are done with athletics so that they can set themselves up. That would be a bad thing, but it's not wrong for the athletes to be getting paid when we're not. I remember really, Jim, this all began around 2008 or 2009 when Texas decided that Mac Brown making $3 million a year wasn't enough. And he was, at that point, pretty much the highest paid coach, college coach. And it wasn't enough, so they gave him $5 million. And I remember saying to myself, this is it. This is the day it all changed. Nothing will ever be the same after they decided to dump a truckload of money on Mac Brown without any competition, without anybody. Got the NFL coming in and saying, we're trying to get Mac Brown to coach our team in the AFC South or whatever. That was the day it all changed. And now that $5 million is only $2 million more than somebody's going to pay an assistant coach. So why are we even having this conversation still?
Yeah, I understand. It's just goes higher. And forget that. How about the money paid in buyouts?
Oh, yes.
I mean, we're talking astronomical numbers here. It turns my stomach because I want a piece of it. I'm bad enough. I'm bad. I can be bad for cheaper. Geez.
You know, I've often wondered how we get ourselves into these circumstances. Not we, colloquially we.
The royal.
How these circumstances develop, because I can't think of many athletic directors who got into trouble because their coach left on their watch. The coach that they wanted to keep left on their watch for more money. But they keep extending them anyway. People like Pat Narduzzi here in Pittsburgh. He's a fine coach. There's nothing wrong with him. But why does he have to have a contract that runs through, the next millennium? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Keep him at 4 or 5 years because you need that traditionally you've needed that to recruit. You don't want to have to be constantly dealing with it. But guys like that don't need 7 and 10-year contracts, not unless they're winning championships all the time. But we're not. That's not who we're talking about. And when Jimbo Fisher went to A&M, I don't think that the $75 million buyout deal was his original contract. I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was his second deal. It was an extension and a raise that they rushed to him after moderate success early on. Remember, again, when he went to A&M, they didn't win the national championship, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was a second, not necessarily a full second contract, but a renegotiation or whatever, an extension. And I don't understand that part of this. And that's how we end up with these absurd buyouts, is that athletic directors keep extending coaches who are doing okay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, if you like your coach, keeping him at 4 or 5 years. But it doesn't make any sense to go to 7 or 10 years unless he is a irreplaceable coach. When Cincinnati in 2019 had Mick Cronin, he had made, I believe, 9 consecutive NCAA tournaments as of the spring of 2019. And that year, in the 2018-19 season, with his string of consecutive NCAA tournaments, was only matched by Mark Few, Tom Izzo, and Bill Self, if I remember correctly. And he'd been approached here and there for different jobs, bigger schools, etc., bigger leagues. Cincinnati was not a Big 12 member then. And he'd been approached, and he asked for a 10-year extension. Not a huge raise, but if he was going to stay in Cincinnati, which was his hometown where his dad lived, his daughter had grown up most of her life. If he was going to stay there, he wanted security. He didn't want to turn down great opportunities to stay where he was for less money, without the security of knowing he'd be the Bearcats coach. And instead, the athletic director at the time, who was not exactly a wizard, decided that he would offer Mick Cronin not less money, but all his bonuses, for the most part, would be switched to higher levels. So getting into the tournament became getting to the Sweet 16, and then you get your bonus. So it was actually a pay cut. And that is the kind of thing that athletic director, that was the kind of extension that would have made sense. A 10-year extension for Mick Cronin at that time would have made sense because you had the security of a really good coach for a very long period of time at not a huge number. And he would have had to completely fail for it not to work out. Since he's left, Cincinnati basically hasn't made the tournament. So that's the flip side of offering coaches who are just okay, just doing good work, long extensions, as opposed to coaches who are doing exceptional work, making 8-9 consecutive tournaments like he had, and offering them that sort of extension.
Yeah. I wonder who ultimately determines the number, the NIL number for these guys when they're coming to play for a school. I don't think the coach has a lot to do with that, does he?
Well, I mean, are you talking about in the past? No,
I'm talking about now.
We're going quickly through eras here, Jim. But we had the collective era, and now we're heading toward the revenue share era. So
true, before pre-revenue share.
Okay, so the collective era, I think that there was some consultation done, but you needed the significant participation of the collective.
Yeah,
they had to be on board with the money figure because it was coming from their group, their organization, the fundraise that they did. So they had to be on board.
But I would imagine though, if the coach says, "Hey man, I need this guy. I want this guy.
Yeah.
I need all these guys."
But if there was a star quarterback at Central High, is there a Central High in Indy? I'm trying to use some generic term.
Sure, there is somewhere.
Okay, so anyway, if there's a star quarterback at generic high, let's call it that, generic high. There we go. There's no generic high. If there's a star quarterback at generic high and the collective wants him, but the coach doesn't, coach thinks he's not good enough, whatever, that's not going to happen. I mean, the coach is not going to take that player on his team, no matter how badly that the collective might think that they could get the kid and they'd want him. So that's not going to happen. But I would think that for the most part, it's going to be coach driven, but it has to run through whether or not they can get the money at the collective level.
How about changing gears here? How about, because of the portal, Nebraska probably going to cancel their spring football game.
I saw that.
It's one of the most highest attended games out there. And that's saying something. And the tradition that this brings. And I'm sure the people of Nebraska just hate that because they live, eat, breathe, and sleep Nebraska football. But tampering is what he is using for the reason, and I'm not disputing it. I think she said something like six players entered the portal after last year's spring game. They must have had some good performances, I imagine.
That's an amazing thing. I mean, when you think about spring foot, I have covered spring football games, and they are not mesmerizing. But in Nebraska, the winter can be tough, and you get a chance to be out with your friends and enjoy the weather, what would usually be a good weather day, and celebrate something you love, even if it's not the most pristine version of what you love. It's like I said, I covered some spring football games at Penn State that it was a struggle to stay awake, man. The job was to stay awake, so I powered through, but it was not easy. Yeah, that's why I said generic high. Look at all those centrals. My bad.
You get all kind of centrals now, boy.
Yes.
Shout
out to all the centrals.
There you go. I went to Floyd Central. So Arkansas, John Calipari goes back to Rupp and gets a very unlikely win, man.
I'll say I did not anticipate them being able to do that. They beat Georgia at home about almost 2 weeks ago now, and they got a lot of breaks down the stretch to get that one done. And one thought that maybe that would be a little bit of an impetus. And I can't remember who they played in their next game, but it wasn't one of the more daunting SEC games. Most of them are pretty daunting, but it wasn't like Alabama or Auburn. And they went back out and did exactly the same things they'd been doing and lost again. So when Kentucky comes up on the schedule, there's no way you think that especially on the road, that Arkansas is going to be able to go in there and get it done. Even though Kentucky was diminished by injury, Lamont Butler, who is their most important player, was unable to play. They were able to get around that by using Amari Williams at point guard and really throwing a real switch to Tennessee. But now Arkansas had been able to scout it. They'd seen it. It wasn't as much of a surprise to them. It wasn't any surprise to them. And so they were able to cope with that. And Kentucky wasn't able to play well. And all of the Arkansas guys who had been at Kentucky with John a year ago and transferred to follow him clearly were inspired. I think of this day often, Jim, when I played softball, rec softball when I was when I was in college, and I played for a radio station where I was an intern, and we played one day at Three Rivers Stadium on the outfield turf at Three Rivers Stadium. And it felt like I could leap over the outfield wall. I mean, it just like being there, just like elevated. I think I hit everything I swung at. I caught everything I ran after. Never had a day like that before or since.
Your field
and I
dreams.
think there was a little bit of that at work with the Arkansas players returning to Kentucky.
No doubt. We've got to take a break. Mike Decourcy with us. When we come back, we're talking Indiana basketball. They head to Madison, Wisconsin tonight to take on the number 19 Badgers in a place they have not won since 98. Can this team be the unlikely team to break that? Don't be surprised. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Mike Decourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks with us as always. And tonight, Mike, the Hoosiers, they have to put the Purdue debacle in the rearview mirror pretty quickly, which it's hard to do. I mean, that was an unbelievably tough loss, but it seems like it was just yesterday. On top of that, this game comes right back at you. They've got to go to a place where they've just had this weird hex. It's one of those odd things. And I remember a few years ago, they had a 20-point lead at Wisconsin and did not get the job done. But I would not be surprised with what I've seen in the Big Ten this season if that happened tonight. I mean, USC is the team that beats Michigan State. I'm like, really? But USC has been steadily climbing up the standings too, but you just never know. Every team in this league, save for Indiana, I think, has I shouldn't say every team, but those bottom low feeder teams, I think they all have a quality win on their resume. Minnesota beat Michigan. Washington beat somebody.
Maryland, I believe.
Maryland, and now yeah, USC, it's just crazy. Crazy league. And boy, the last two games for Indiana would have turned their season around. Those would have been Q1 wins. And I don't know how much that would have affected, but it would have been a big boost to their metrics, to their numbers, to their psyche.
Huge. I would imagine they would be in most people's brackets. I have mine coming out later today. Look, I'm not saying that my bracket is the, the gold standard or anything like that, but it's what I do honestly affects and what others do, Jerry Palm and Joe Lenardi, et cetera. There's more there than there is in the AP top 25 because it reflects what is likely to be, what would be the reality if it happened now. And I'm not saying that any one of us is perfect, but if you're in our brackets, all of ours, you're probably headed toward getting in the real one. A year ago, the consensus at the bracket matrix missed one team, and all of us missed the same one, basically. And it's that way just about every year. It's usually one team, and all of us miss the same team. It's been that way now. I've done, I think, 4 brackets that have had a tournament follow. That I did brackets in 2020 when there was no tournament, and it's almost always everybody misses one team. So if all of us have Indiana in, or if we had Indiana in, then they would be likely to be headed in that direction. And if they had beaten Purdue, I would suspect that all of us would have had Indiana in, because I can tell you, I mean, this idea about expanding the NCAA tournament, Jim, it's a joke. I mean, there's no way there are 4 teams, 6 teams, 8 teams, whatever you want to say, that are outside my field right now that have any business. You wouldn't even give them tickets to get in. That's how bad it is. I mean, it's just absurd, the idea that we need to expand this. And the irony is that it's coming from Greg Sankey. At least he was the loudest voice. And he's got 13 teams in this thing. He doesn't need any more. No,
that's this year. He's thinking ahead.
Well, but look, if you're playing basketball at the level that they should be playing, then you should always be at least in the ballpark of that, 10 or 12 or whatever. Even this is not a banner year for the Big Ten. It's a good year. It's a strong year, deep year, but it's not high flying, look at us kind of year. They've had better years. 2020, like I mentioned, the year we didn't have a tournament, was a better year. 2021, although it didn't follow through in the tournament, was a phenomenal year regular season wise. This is a very good year, but they still have 10. So that says something about the need to expand it. But I did not look at Friday night for Indiana, other than perhaps the final shot, as a bad thing. They went into Purdue, a team that's been having a great year, played on their home court, played them to the last second. The last second, I think they might have liked to have that back. The whole thing, everything about
games
it.
in a row, but that's 2 games in a row where they.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The Maryland game, the decision, the lack of decision, whatever you want to call it, to not give the foul. The last second thing, the shot thing I didn't love, but for me, it goes back to not giving the foul, because you may not even need to design a last second shot if you properly give the foul. When the ball gets to the center of the lane, and I think we talked about this last week, Steve Lapis mentioned on the telecast prior to, so he was on top of it. There's a foul to give. Don't just give it to give it. Give it if the ball gets deep. And they didn't do it. The ball got deep. There were 3 guys that were adjacent, could have fouled him, didn't. They wind up with the open 3-pointer from Rice. And then at the other end, you wind up with a bad shot, bad execution, bad whatever it was, bad shot. And then this
it all
game
boils down to poor communication.
I guess I think that's, you can say that it wasn't sufficient because either the message wasn't delivered or it wasn't received. And then
that they're not ready for these kind of moments, because yet again, we see it happen in back-to-back games to where I don't know what plan was. It doesn't look like there was a plan. Not
on
that
the
there
second
always
one,
is. Yeah,
my problem with the second one is that they've changed the rule in college basketball now, that at a certain point in the game, if I believe that I'm right about this, at a certain point in the game, last minute, last 2 minutes, whatever it is, the coaches can now call timeout from the bench. Didn't used to be able to do that, shouldn't be able to do that, but they are. And when you see the ball come down the floor and it's not in Trey Galloway's hands, and it's clearly what everybody wanted was to have Trey Galloway with the ball in his hands, you call timeout. You stop the play. And we've all seen this now. We've seen that coach call that timeout, and then all of a sudden the guy who had the ball in his hands bust a 3, and it's like, well, why'd they do that? But that's the chance you take to get the shot you want. And they didn't do it. That it didn't happen. And the shot stayed in the player's hands. The ball stayed in the player's hands, and he attempted a shot with, as I'd have to see it again, but I don't recall a lot of support on his half of the court for if it was missed clean rather than blocked. If it was just missed clean and came off the boards, I'm not sure there was been anybody there to get it. I just, it's a huge missed opportunity, but I still say, and I'll stay with this, because 5 games coming up, beginning tonight with what you talked about at Wisconsin, 5 games coming up. If they win 3 of them, the season changes, Jim. Everything changes. If they can win 3 of those games, pick which 3. The whole season changes. They're firmly in the field. All the narrative about missing 2 tournaments in a row, all that goes away if they do that. Now, I don't expect that they will do that. It would be a complete reversal of form, or at least it would be a reversal of how they've executed in crunch time, because they could have had Maryland and let it get away. They could have had Purdue and let it get away. So they'd have to do the right things 3 times in a row against difficult opponents, and sometimes in difficult environments. But I'm not gonna say that they can't do that, because I saw them go to Purdue and lose at the last second on a great shot by Trey Kaufman-Renn, and then a failed attempt by themselves. And again, I had less trouble with the Kaufman-Renn shot because you weren't as advantaged there with the fouls to give and all that. And it was a very well done set, and not the kind of shot that you as a defender would say, dang, how did we give him that? It's a 12-foot, 14-foot jump hook to a terrific player. But gosh, I mean, you're going to give up something. And I don't think that Indiana had anything to be ashamed of for giving up that play. But their offense on subsequently was completely misspent.
Yeah, and that's again happened multiple times, and at the end of the day, that we all know where that lies. Now this Saturday, I think it ramps up a little bit because Michigan and Dusty May come to Bloomington, and like at Mackey, where Mike Woodson received a standing ovation from the Purdue crowd, which is something he does not get at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall crowd. I'm wondering what it might be like Saturday when the guy that a lot of people would like to see on the opposite side of that sideline comes to Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I don't recall a time of this ever happening. I'm trying to think back of me covering, not anywhere, just here.
Right.
And I'm like, boy, I can't think of a situation like this before. I don't think that it has happened. Certainly not recently, because it wasn't Mike Woodson coming in. It wasn't Archie Miller coming in. And maybe you'd have to go back to Tom Crean. I don't know if he ever played, but this is a weird situation.
It is. Tom was at Marquette in 2007, 2008.
Right.
And so they would not have come in. It is a really unusual circumstance. There's no doubt. It does not come up often anywhere. I would imagine there might have been times when Billy Donovan went to Kentucky, perhaps in the Billy Gillespie years, that there might be something similar to that. But this doesn't happen often. And especially in a circumstance where you know that the coach that's in place is fighting for his job, and we'll know maybe the vibe around the program changes if they're able to go to Badgertown and get it done. Maybe the vibe changes a little bit, because that'd be a heck of a win, and it would start the process of changing, and then maybe you go into a game against Michigan with some confidence. Because Michigan has had a really strong stretch earlier, and they still are a very promising team. But they have been, they lost at Minnesota. They've not been invulnerable. Northwestern hung with them on Saturday for a while, even with Brooks Barnheiser absent. So you can, if you were able to pull Wisconsin tonight, you could go into Saturday saying, hey, we can do this. And it might change the vibe around this team. So I know exactly what you're saying, but I also am not convinced that Saturday has to be quite that way if maybe things went well in the Hoosiers' next game. But I don't know how that will go. We'll see. I think they're a good matchup for Wisconsin. Of the better teams in the league, I think they match up reasonably well with Wisconsin because their bigs are fairly mobile, and that's what Wisconsin does. Wisconsin has two big guys that they play together, Stephen Crow and Nolan Winter, and they interchange them. They play them both high. They play them both low. They're constantly on the move, and you have to be able to move with them, and a lot of teams don't have that. But with Renew and Ballo, those guys can go. So they should be able to cope with some of the things that Wisconsin does well. And then you can't let John Tonje have a day. John Tonje seems to be like he's either Michael Jordan or he's Michael Decourcy, one of those two. He has unbelievable games, and then other games where he's not quite all the, he's not hurting them, but he's not really present. And if you get one of the days where he's Michael Jordan, you've got problems. So you can't let him go.
The problem for Indiana, Mike, is that their better lineup is not having Ballo and Renew in, but Ballo and Goody in, so they can take advantage of his 3-point shooting, of his a little more athletic ability. But you also have Michigan coming in that also runs two bigs and does the same thing. Both can step out. Vladimir doesn't do it as much as the other guy, but they both do.
Yes.
I've seen Golden take 3-point shots recently. So they both step out, and that's not something Indiana runs and is accustomed to.
Right. Yeah. With Golden is somebody that Ballo, we're getting way ahead of ourselves because it's Saturday, but Ballo should be able to cope with Golden. I mean, he's built to do that. If he can't cope with Golden, what does he do? I mean, he's 6'11", 7 feet. He's a shot blocker. He's physically powerful. He's mobile. He should be able to deal with Golden. Danny Wolf altogether, he's just different. 7 feet, can shoot threes, can pass, can handle, can move. He does a lot of different things, and you have to be able to cope with that. You're right about Goody. I think they're going to have to consider playing some multiple big formations, though, because otherwise you're guarding Nolan Winter with a 6'7" guy. And, it can work if the guy's a great defender. I'm not sure whether that's the category we're talking about here.
Well, we'll certainly find out. What is up next for you?
Working on some pre-Super Bowl articles in particular. And
well, you better hurry up because that's Sunday right? Or Saturday. What is it?
I'll be writing tomorrow and Thursday. And then this afternoon at noon, I will be on Big Ten Network on Big Ten Today for our first look at I'll be making appearances every Tuesday at noon on Big Ten Today to talk about our NCAA tournament brackets.
Awesome. You can give them a shout out from us. No, just kidding. So make sure you catch that going forth the rest of the season, people. You can give yourselves a shot at seeing who's where if you maybe have a different team, or to see where all the teams are. But make sure you're checking that out and giving Mike a follow. And where can they also get your brackets at college?
The brackets are published through Fox's social media channels. It's at CBB on Fox, at CBB on Fox.
There you go, people. Mike Decourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks. As always, greatly appreciate you, sir.
Take care, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Decourcy joining us. Always a pleasure. Always looking forward to talking about him, especially tonight, Indiana taking on Wisconsin up in Madison at the Kohl Center. They've won there one time, 1998, January 25th, I believe, was that day. Man, that's hard to believe. It's just one of those, it's like the Colts, the season opening streak. They can't get over it. It's just a crazy thing. Indiana owned Wisconsin, but we've got more coming up, and we'll take on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Tuesday. Appreciate you being with us. Jim Coyle with you as always as well. Looking forward to Travis Miller joining us here in a little while. I was looking over the standings for various conferences in college basketball right now, and the AAC, or no, that's the AAC. That's Memphis at the top, number 17. But the ACC, Duke stands atop at 11-0. Clemson right behind them at 10-1. Clemson, really? You serious? They're 18-4 overall. Louisville, Pat Kelsey, the brand new team, 9-2 in the ACC, 16-6 overall. Not bad. That's going to be a pretty good 3 or 4. They're going to wind up with probably a 4-3 seed. No, I'm not sure. 4. Thereabouts. Probably a 4 seed. 5 at worst. North Carolina. Talk about another blue blood program that has very similarly, they went the way of hiring a famous alum and not working out for the Tar Heels. So I have a suspicion you're going to see 2 major programs making coaching changes at the end of this season. North Carolina will be the other one. Not that there won't be others, but right now, North Carolina limping along 6-5 in the conference, 13-10 overall. They're not doing well. So Houston and Arizona, they're tied for the lead in the Big 12 conference at 9-1 in conference play. Houston, 17-4 overall, recently got that huge double overtime win at Kansas. That's kind of a knock 'em down conference there, but nothing like the SEC, of course. St. John's heading up the Big East. Rick Pitino, another new team. He's got a new team. They're 19-3, 10-1 in their conference. They lead Marquette, who is right behind them at 9-2. Creighton as well. And then UConn at 8-3. So tougher at the top. And then you get to the Big Ten. Of course, Michigan State still at the top at 9-1. Purdue right behind him at 9-2. I think Todd Leary said that he thinks Purdue will end up winning. And you know what? It's not going to shock me. It's not going to shock me. Purdue has managed the last few years in winning the conference. They've done what you have to do. They've managed to escape some games that they probably should have lost, like Saturday to Indiana. There were others in the last few years that they were able to get out, and that's what it takes to win, man. Sometimes you got to be lucky. Michigan right behind Purdue at a half a game. Michigan's only 1 game out of the Big Ten lead. So 3 teams within a game at the top. Maryland and UCLA, as well as Wisconsin, Indiana's opponent tonight, both 2.5 games back at 7-4 in league play. They're followed by the Illini. And then USC. Man, what an improvement. USC was one of the worst teams in the conference, but they have been winning. Nothing bigger than that win over Michigan State. That was incredible. So go on with your bad self. Then see the Southeastern Conference. We know about that thing being a
a tough way to go. Auburn, of course, at the top. They're unbeaten in conference play, man. 8-0. 20-1 on the season overall. They've won 13 in a row. They're followed by number one. They're number one Auburn. You got number 3 Alabama, number 15 Missouri. There's number 10 Texas A&M, number 6 Florida, number 4 Tennessee, number 25 Ole Miss, number 14 Kentucky, number 22 Mississippi State. What are you kidding me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams ranked in the top 25. Now, rankings, we all know what that means, but that only really applies to the lower ends. The upper teams, we know they're good. There's no question as to that. Doesn't necessarily mean this team's number one. It's you're in the ballpark, but they got a lot of good ones. A lot of good teams that are going to make noise, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NCAA tournament when it all comes to play. It's going to be interesting to see what Indiana does tonight as well, from a standpoint of what they run out there. I think that it's pretty set in stone that we're going to see Renew and Ballo start, and then Woodson bring Luke Goody in. I don't know that it matters anymore. I'm not sure that it does, because this team just does not seem to be prepared for moments. They're not prepared for situations to win. You have to be ready to win. And I'm just not sure they have the collective basketball IQ as a team. They just don't seem, well, they're definitely not in sync at the end of games. And, you know, the Ballo thing the other day, I love the intensity. I love the will to win. I love, you know, hating to lose more than liking to win. But you can't act like a complete asinine buffoon. And that's what that was. He basically abandoned his team. He abandoned everybody. He just take my toys and go home kind of a thing. And it's not acceptable, man. But I doubt anything is done about it. I don't know that anything can be done about it from how it's starting to sound. And that's a shame. It's shocking. It is truly shocking that and I'm not a Bob Knight zealot, don't get me wrong, but it is shocking to me that someone who did play for Bob Knight would have basically no discipline. His teams would have no discipline. And I think that is because it's two reasons. Being in the NBA, the Bob Knight and the Indiana thing for Mike Woodson, man, that's a distant memory, if it's even that. That's so long ago. But I think the other thing, and the bigger thing, is it's the easiest way to not have discipline. You have to work to have discipline. You have to demand and command respect. I'm not sure that that's happening. Obviously it's not happening, because it comes hand in hand if you are. That says a lot about this team. That tells you why that they're not prepared to win at the end. It's a team that is not in step with each other. And the animosity shown by Ballo was a little frightening in that situation. How do you not save that for the locker room? Seriously? You're going to do that. Not only are you going to do that, but you're going to do that on the road for all the opposing fans and TV cameras to see. It makes me wonder. But things only happen because they're allowed to happen. Now there's a good point. We were talking earlier about, I don't recall a situation. Well, Jamie Hoy, you may have hit the nail on the head. Steve Alford, when Iowa came to Assembly Hall and Mike Davis took that game off, I didn't even remember that. But the fact that Steve Alford came was probably, that fills the bill that I was talking about, because he was definitely, and still to some degree, some people, very, very few, fortunately, throw his name up about the potential at the end of the year, because that's not a viable solution. But great point, Jamie. Thank you, sir. That's a good one. Robert says, funny, he recalls a lot of talk before the season started. This team was so talented, not even Mike Woodson could screw it up. That didn't age well. Yeah, well, thank God it wasn't me that said that. Thank gosh that wasn't me. But hey, it's not only happening at Indiana. Like I said, North Carolina is enduring the same thing. They are going through the same situation. It happens. You just have to fix it. And that's doable. We've seen how doable that is. And not only that, I'm saying Indiana fans should just relax, because as long as they get it right, Indiana will be fine and most likely winning next season. And by that, I don't mean necessarily challenging for the Big Ten title. I don't want to go that far, but we've seen teams do it. We're seeing teams do it, because basketball is not nearly as difficult as football. And you get the right guy, Indiana is going to be fine. Fine. They have everything they need set up. Resources, talent within the state, his history, the legacy. It will be fine. The one thing a lot of people forget is also, the Indiana student population in-state is a minority. It's 51% from out of state or international. So their entire student population is not homegrown. So they want to build that brand. They've not been building that brand for quite some time. Hey, I've got to take a break. Get Travis Miller on here. We'll talk more Big Ten basketball, as great slate of games on hand tonight with a lot of teams involved in the Big Ten race. More coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Travis Miller joins me now from Boiler Upload, and Purdue has a game tonight as well as Indiana, Michigan State, USC on the rise. Purdue heading to Iowa in a game that could play right into Purdue's favor, but it also could go the other way. Iowa is a team that if they can get you on the run and things are working for them, it usually goes well. But if not, this is a type of game that seems like Purdue can handle pretty well.
Yeah, I've always said that Iowa basketball is the Wario to Iowa football, in that they are all offense and no defense. But yeah, it should be an interesting game tonight. A lot of those games are very similar. The Fred McCaffrey teams always want to go get out and run. They want you to play the game in the 80s or the 90s, and probably comes down to how well Purdue is shooting the three. They haven't particularly done that well of late, but hopefully they get it together tonight. I know that they're just coming off a pretty emotional win against Indiana on Friday night. That was an incredible game up in Mackey Arena. And this is the first road game after 3 home games. So you look at it, and if you want to win a Big Ten title, this is the type of game you need to go on the road and win. And so I think Purdue will be ready tonight.
Yeah, I think the folks in Mackey were a little stunned for a good portion of Saturday, as that game was going back and forth, and Indiana giving Purdue all they wanted in that game, and could have possibly won had they not botched their last shot attempt. But they did, and so they didn't. But man, that would have been something. But yeah, but it goes down as a W for Purdue, and you just move on. Whereas when you lose that kind of a game, man, you have to wonder if that lingers, and Indiana can't let that linger because they're in Madison, Wisconsin tonight to play, obviously, Wisconsin, and they've got to get past that. Yet another road game with Michigan coming in, and Michigan State on the backside of that. So it's been quite the stretch for Indiana. And they're going to have to find a way to win one of these games. It's back-to-back games over really quality teams. They would have had 2 quality wins there. Against Maryland, they had an opportunity to win that game and was not able to close it out, and the same with Purdue. Man, opportunities like that are going to stop coming up for Indiana.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that stood out to me the most is both what Mike Woodson and Matt Painter said on Friday night after the game, where Mike Woodson was trying to get Miles Rice's attention as he's coming up the floor there. And then Matt Painter openly saying, yeah, I'm glad they didn't get the ball to Trey Galloway or Oumar Ballo, because those guys were killing us in the second half. And I kind of agree with that sentiment. And you almost have to wonder what was going on there. I'm hoping that Mike Woodson's timeout that he had left will be donated to charity and will benefit some other hapless team when they need it the most. But yeah, it was just a weird final position there for Indiana. It felt kind of forced. And I'm not even sure that what Jakari Harris got. People are arguing, did he bump in with the body? I didn't think so. Maybe he got a piece of the ball there, but it just was kind of weird that Miles Rice kind of passed the ball straight to Trey Kaufman-Renn. And if you're an Indiana fan, you've got to be concerned because that's 2 games in a row where the last.
But you do have to wonder when he passes it to an opponent. You do have to wonder why would they do that if they weren't possibly fouled or. And I'm not saying he was. I don't even care about. I don't even care about that excuse. It shouldn't have come to that.
Right.
But
it didn't look like a foul to me. But
it did to a lot of other people. But here's the thing: you're not getting that call in Mackey on a last-second play. It's not going to happen. And so that's neither here nor there. They're going to have to get it together or just ride the season out. Purdue, on the other hand, they're Michigan State upset by USC, a team that is slowly, sneakily risen up the Big Ten standings. They're like inside of the top 10, I think, right now. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they're at 500. They're 500 in the
they
league.
Are.
And they come to Mackey Arena on Friday, too. So that'll be an interesting game. First time that Purdue's played USC in ages or anything, and getting them at home in West Lafayette will be nice, but it's a mystery opponent.
They're in 8th. They were in the bottom.
They've already proven they won at Illinois, so they're a tough team. You can't just automatically count them as a win at home.
And Indiana has a win over USC. It's crazy. Nuts. Purdue taking on this Iowa team, as I talked about, an Iowa team that is milk toast. They're below, let's see, they're 4-6 in Big Ten play. So they're further down. They're 13-8 overall, but they're just like always, these teams are milk toast. They're vanilla. You said we all know that they're all offense and no defense. He just tries to outscore people. I wonder, when is Iowa going to finally say, okay, it's fun being over 500 every year, but just being over 500 has gotten kind of boring.
And they, even when they have been their most successful, like when they had Luka Garza, it's not like they did anything in the postseason either. That Iowa team was in the top 5 for much of that season, and I was never afraid of them just because I knew Fran McCaffrey. They don't play any defense, and that's going to bite you in the end. So, I think they're having a little bit of a down year, but you got to be ready every night in this league. I think Purdue lost to a pretty milquetoast team at Penn State when they turned the ball over 24 times. I felt like they lost to a pretty milquetoast Ohio State team at home because they just had a terrible second half at home. So it's really just going to be a matter of how focused is Purdue tonight, and especially 3 days after an emotional home win. So you take nothing for granted in this league. I thought Purdue should have walked their state at home, and they did for about half the game, and then the second half they just kind of fell apart and didn't get it done. So every game's going to be tough, and that's what I expect to see tonight.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what makes it fun. And unfortunately for Indiana, you've got Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, Maryland, and UCLA, along with Wisconsin at the top, add Illinois to that. They've played every one of those teams or are going to play them in succession. I think that includes UCLA, all in a row. I mean, it's like they're catching them all at the same time, which is not fun. But Michigan State, catching their tougher part of their schedule on the back nine, it looks like. And that bodes well for not only Purdue, but Michigan, who both are within a game of the lead. Michigan hanging in there, man, with first-year coach Dusty May, who comes to Bloomington on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the team to watch right now, from a spoiler perspective, is Maryland. They're playing some really good basketball right now. I think they might be one of those better teams in the conference, and they've gotten better as the season goes along. I feel like Purdue was very lucky to get them in those 2 December Big Ten games when they hadn't quite come together yet, and Purdue was able to edge them in West Lafayette. And I'm honestly glad we don't have to go to College Park, because I'm kind of looking at Maryland to be the chaos team that helps us out and gets a couple of wins over like a Michigan or a Michigan State the rest of the way. So they're a good ball club. And then the way they win at Indiana was impressive too.
Yeah, I'm going to have you go out and reconnect, and if you wouldn't mind, because I think we've got a little bad connection.
Yeah,
there.
I can do that.
But we'll have you do that and come back in, Travis Miller. But yeah, the standings have kind of been jumbled a little bit, but the teams at the bottom have Minnesota and Washington. They're still down there, although they both have quality wins. That's kind of amazing. You know, I was looking at the 2 teams at the very bottom of the conference, Minnesota and Washington, sitting down there, Washington 2-8, 3-8, Minnesota. But both teams have big wins. Minnesota, a win over Michigan. Washington, a win over Maryland, I think.
Yeah, I maybe. I don't know. But
there's somebody,
I think,
I forget.
Yeah, I think what helps with them is they each have some they have a really good individual player that can just have a great night. Jonathan Garcia with Minnesota, and that great Osibor had a fantastic game against Purdue. They didn't win, but I think he had like 25, 26, 27 points. He hit a couple of 3-pointers and everything. And if you got one of those guys that can be a bad matchup and just cause problems for other teams, that helps tremendously. I don't think either team is going to go to the NCAA tournament. I think both teams are going to struggle to make the Big Ten tournament, but you can't take them for granted. They've got the tools and the personnel that they can catch a team napping. Just ask Michigan when they went to Minnesota.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because we're just halfway through the Big Ten season. I don't think people realize that a lot, because Michigan State, of course, at 9-1, they played 20 games, people. We're just now, Purdue is 1 game over, but everyone else pretty much right in there, but just at the halfway point. Yeah, it's all downhill from here, but then you head into, boy, what is this Big Ten tournament going to be like when we get there? I think that is going to be just Katie bar the door with all of these teams. So many teams that are getting better, like USC, like Maryland, that has gotten better. Illinois they've kind of ridden a roller coaster, and that surprises me a little bit. I guess it shouldn't, because Kasparis Jokichanis he's great, but he is a true freshman. And I don't know if that's part of it, but yeah, with Illinois has been kind of a roller coaster team.
Yeah, I feel like Illinois is almost the team that has the highest ceiling. Like when they are playing the best, if they're really, really on, it's going to be tough for anybody else to beat them. I feel like consistency-wise, I feel like Michigan State and Purdue have been pretty consistent throughout the Big Ten schedule. Purdue's had a couple slip-ups here with Penn State and Ohio State. You had Michigan slipped up at Minnesota, but for the most part, they've been pretty consistent there. And Michigan State, like you said, the strength of their schedule is on the back end. I know they have to go to Maryland. I know they host Purdue. I think they still have to play Wisconsin. I think they still have to play Michigan. So it's going to be interesting to see how this race plays out. And then, of course, the Big Ten tournament, the race for those 4 byes to where you don't have to play until Friday, that's always huge. You see those teams always have such an advantage, especially if they happen to get one of the teams that has to play on Wednesday and has already played twice before they've even taken the floor. So, I think that you'll see in the end, I kind of look for Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin, and I'm going to go Maryland as the teams that get the 4 double byes, and we'll be sitting there waiting for Friday, waiting for everybody else to figure things out.
It'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting. There's no doubt we know the 3 of them, but who that 4th team is, there's a lot of teams vying for that spot. As a matter of fact, there are 1, 2, 3 that are tied, and another one that is a half game behind them. So, yeah, UCLA kind of bouncing back from where they were. They went through a rut where they just weren't playing well. Mick Cronin was moaning and groaning after every game about something, but they seem to kind of gotten things straight again.
Yeah, and they still have to come east for a lot. I know you said that they're coming to Bloomington on, I think it's February 15th. They come to Purdue on February 28th, I believe it is. And it's going to, the travel, I think you're also starting to see some of the effects of the travel. Look how much Oregon has fallen off. Like you said, UCLA has struggled with their own travel issues. I really think you're going to start seeing that as the season goes on. And some of the teams that have already gone west for their 2 games, that's going to be beneficial. So, just check out the schedule. Who has to do the Pacific Northwest road trip? Who has to do the Los Angeles road trip back to back? And those are going to be factors in the race.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know or don't remember, with the expanded conference numbers this season, now up to 18, there will only be 15 teams playing in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. That means those that finish in the bottom 3 will not get an invite. And right now, that is a race between Northwestern and Penn State, who are both 3-8. With Nebraska right in front of them, but there's a game difference between them. Rutgers as well, and then Iowa. So pretty good buffer there if you were worried about whether or not you're going to get in. But man, can you imagine being the teams that don't even get to play in the Big Ten tournament? You used to always have that.
Is it like the Premier League where they get relegated to a different league next year and we pick up 3 teams? I can get behind that.
Well, you know what? That was kind of a talking point in college football for a minute. What about that? I mean, you could, if they went to a super league and then you relegate and bring them up and send them down, it probably wouldn't fly. But just because part of all that's not culture. That's not American sports culture. And that's probably the biggest reason why that would not work, although it may be a viable system if it were to be given a chance. I'm not saying it is, but it would be wild to see because you'd have people fighting to get in, but then you'd have a lot more cheating maybe.
I think it would be incredible to see. And unfortunately, Purdue would have gotten relegated down to whatever conference Wabash College and DePaul are in this year for football. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it adds an element of surprise to the season. And like you said, the way to fight your way up and earn your way up, what if North Dakota State stayed hot and they worked their way into the Big Ten? I think that'd be incredible. I think it could be a hell of a story.
It would be something. Mary Catherine asking, where is the Big Ten tournament being played? That's in Indianapolis at not Lucas Oil, but Cambridge.
The only place it should be played.
That's right. I agree. That and every media day should be in Indianapolis as well, without question. But yes, it's going to be in India. This may be they'll be moving it around though. It's going to be in Vegas. It's going to be. It'll go to Chicago, of course, which
isn't there one in Detroit too?
Yeah, and that one gives me an ick feeling. It's just a gigantic city, and I guess there's worse things, first world problems, right? No question. But man, who's going to be the player of the year in the Big Ten? Is Braden Smith going to pull that off?
I think he's got an excellent shot. He is putting up some tremendous numbers. You have a guy that can go out and drop 10, 12, 14 assists a game, and you're not surprised by it. I think that's incredible. I was actually looking at some of the all-time NCAA marks last year. And he is on pace, assuming he stays for his senior season next year, which I think he will. He is on pace to potentially break the Division I record for most assists in a career. Only 4 players have ever gotten to 1,000 assists out of all of college basketball. And Braden's got an excellent shot. I think he's just short of 600. He's probably going to get over 700 by the end of this season at least. And that puts him, in a really good spot going into next year to challenge that record. So I think I would have him there just because when he is on for Purdue, if he is both shooting well and he's distributing well, Purdue is a very difficult team to beat. So I think I would kind of give that to him right now. But there's some other ones. Queen for Maryland is playing some really good basketball right now. I think he is.
Yeah, but he hasn't played to that level.
He's gotten them going and he's pulled them around. But I do think Braden Smith is probably the favorite right now.
I would probably say so, just because he's been around, because Purdue is up there. And Michigan State is not built on star names. Michigan State is just built a great – Tom Izzo has built a great team.
They're playing really good basketball too, even with the USC loss. So be interesting to see what they do at UCLA tonight. I think that's a pretty big game in the Big Ten standings overall. If they were to drop that while Purdue wins at Iowa tonight, you basically just have a dead heat for the rest of the way. And that makes the game between the two of them in East Lansing later on this month a really, really big game.
Yeah, Kasparas Yakuchonis, he is a great player, but he's been too inconsistent. But he is now, if you want to talk about who has the biggest ceiling, well, there's no question. Yakuchonis is going to play in the NBA, and Braden Smith, that's not something he's going to get to enjoy. He might probably play professional ball, but it won't be in the NBA. Where Yakuchonis, he's just built, man. Yakuchonis is built to play in the NBA. He's like 6'3", or I can't remember, is he 6'3" or 6'5"? Golly, that dude looks like he's a freaking true freshman. And just you watch him, and I'll tell you what, I watched the guy AJ DeBanza over the weekend, and wow, he didn't have a 3-point shot though. Other than that, he was an amazing 6'9" guy that could just beat you off the dribble and do everything else. But what's up next for you and Boiler Upload?
Just the usual. I know they've announced the Purdue spring game here, so we're covering that with Barry Odom. Interesting to see what he's going to be able to do in the first year. I think he's got a really difficult task ahead of him, but not impossible. We've seen turnarounds happen before, so I'm interested to see how he handles spring football. And with the transfer portal and everything else, I think Purdue is a gigantic mystery in football coming this season. And then, of course, continuing to watch basketball. Can Purdue get a third straight Big Ten championship? I think it's very, very possible. It's something to watch. Honestly, they are one possession away from having 3 in a row already, because they lost all those buzzer beater games in the 2022 season. And if they had won just one of them, they would have won the title that year. So it's a golden era of Purdue basketball right now, and I want people to enjoy it and enjoy watching it, because I think this is the best stretch that we've seen in school history.
Enjoy it away, and give Travis a follow, Boiler fans, wherever you are. For those of you listening on several of the stations, just go to Boiler Upload if you're looking for Boiler information. We've got lots more coming up. Travis Miller, appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
As always. Hey, we've got more coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on the backside of these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth.
Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. It's game day for Indiana and Purdue, as well as a few other Big Ten teams. Purdue heads to Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes. Indiana to Madison, Wisconsin, to take on the Buckeyes, the Badgers, Bucky Badger. That's what I was thinking, right? Oh, John, man, going out is rough. All right. Russell says Nebraska's going to surprise in football. I guess that's why they're canceling their spring game so they can keep it secret. Well, I mean, what would be a surprise? I mean, they were a bowl team last year, so unless they pull off an 11-1 season, a slight improvement is not exactly wouldn't be a shock. It's expected. Matt Rule better, or he's going to be seeking employment. ISC says 6 more weeks of IU losing as the Badger sees it. Did he see a shadow? Is that Saturday? What day is Badger Day? I know it's Groundhog Day, but isn't that Saturday? I can't remember. Robert says IU missed it. It jumps. Why? I hate when these comments jump around. His basketball team ranked #1 in transfers. Look how that's going. Signetti is brewing these guys like a strong cup of coffee. Yeah, Kurt Signetti, I pointed it out yesterday, I believe, received the highest grade from the College Football Network of all first-year head coaches. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal because there were names on there that pretty big, like Kalen DeBoer. The number of teams that had a first-year coach would probably surprise you. There were a ton. I mean, there must have been 30 or more. Wyoming, Oregon State, Mississippi State. Did not go well there. David Braun and Northwestern. Yeah, those are all the bottom. I mean, I'd have to scroll and scroll and scroll before you get to anything that went well. So it's amazing. Congratulations again. You can go to thehoosier.com and see 4-star defensive back Caden Hall talking about his offer from Indiana. Indiana football, man, loading up. I'm telling you, it's going to be just as fun next year. But and I mentioned the schedule, man. There will be no jerking Indiana around because of their schedule next season. Without question, they'll have a fine resume that will not be a concern with the 3 road games they have. It's going to be a tough one. Indiana taking on Wisconsin tonight. That's not till 9 o'clock. It's a late game. All of you probably won't see the end. On the season, Wisconsin is averaging 81.5 points per game. That's not, if Indiana gives up 80 points, they're going to be on the losing end in this contest. So that's a lot of points for anybody. I'll be honest with you. That's not your grandfather's Wisconsin team averaging 80 points. Back in the day, they were 56 point average. Something crazy like that. But they're only allowing 70 points a game. So that's a great recipe. An 11-point swing. They're ranked number 14 in Ken Palm. They have the nation's 7th ranked offense and 46th ranked defense. And they're number 16 in the net. 6-5 in quad 1 games. That's a lot of quad 1 wins. Who to look out for? Guard John Tanji. He is the leading scorer for the Badgers. 6'5" guard, averaging over 18 points a game, shooting 47% from the field and 41.5% from three-point range on 5.5 attempts per game. Indiana's going to have to get up in his face, and you cannot let him go off. If he gets off, then I don't know how you slow that down. Unless Indiana finds some way to match that, which we haven't seen that here of late, although Mackenzie Mbako has been playing extraordinarily well. And Luke Goody probably as well would be playing equally as well if he received equal minutes. But that's another conversation. There's another guard, 6'4" sophomore, John Blackwell, averaging 15.5 points a game. He's shooting 48% from the floor and 35% from downtown. He was also named to the Big Ten All-Freshman team a season ago, pulls down 4.5 boards and hands out a couple assists. And then their big man, sophomore 7-footer, Nolan Winter, averaging 10 points and 5.5 rebounds a game. He appeared in all 36 games last year for Wisconsin. He's shooting 59% from the field, 39% from beyond the three-point line, which means he'll step out there and shoot. But he's not going to do much in the paint, I don't think. Not with Ballo. I think Ballo will take care of that. Earlier, Indiana, I've mentioned it, has not won in the Kohl Center since 1998. It's crazy. It's one of those crazy, crazy stats. But I've been having this weird feeling that, there's a lot of negative energy, it seems, with Indiana basketball right now, not just with the fans. I'm talking about with the players, with what we saw on Saturday. And there was a comment I'll get to in a second. But negative energy is better than no energy. If you have negative energy, you have energy. If you can harness that and use that and point that in the right direction, it can work equally as well. Now, is it as smooth? Probably not. But again, better than no energy. And maybe Indiana is able to find a way to fight, to use that negative energy and fight through and then come back together. This is going to be a tough get, but it's not impossible. If you can hold the three-point shooting down, Indiana is going to have an absolute chance in this game, because I don't think that Wisconsin can do much in the post, which is where Indiana will try to do a lot of work. And if Indiana's getting something from Mackenzie Mbako and some additives from Luke Goody, giving the same effort they gave at Purdue, that's another thing I was going to bring up. Where has the effort in the towards the end of the Maryland game and throughout the Purdue game, where has that effort been all season? That's how it should be every game in, game out. I think that is part of the symmetry of this team, or the lack thereof, personally, but we'll see. Indiana, they put themselves in position to win 2 straight games, big games, what would have been big games, big wins rather. And this one would certainly be that. Again, it would be a Q1 win, and then they would bring that momentum home for a Saturday game that is also huge, where they can't still turn things around. Is it likely? I'm not saying it is, but is it possible? Yes. Had they handled business in the last 2 games, they would be, like Mike Decourcy said earlier, they would be on brackets right now. It's not getting that done. It's not getting those wins accomplished. Just killing Indiana. And it is also, I think, slowed down the talk of like fire Woodson now. That's pointless. And there are a couple of reasons to that. Number one, it will do no good whatsoever. It just will not do any good. So why do it? There's just no reason. Number two, you can't talk to anybody. So it's not going to give you. Most people know that there's going to be a change, and there will be a change, but the change will come regardless before everyone else's season has completed. This team's not going to the NCAA tournament if they don't do something miraculous coming up. And on top of that, Mike Woodson has to get to ride this ship out right to the bitter end. If it's riding, that's driving it into the mud, then so be it. But he gets to ride this ship out, and he needs to go down. He needs to go down with the ship. Don't let him off. Well, that would be the easy way out. Nope. You have the reins. Take them. You have the cob. It's yours. Yeah, you're already paying him. What's the difference? It's not going to do any good, is my point. And not only that, it gives the appearance that, you know what, they gave him all of the resources he needed. They gave him all of the opportunities. He had everything he needed to win, and they did not stand in his way. And that's exactly how it's going to have to be. And it's not because another coach really gives a crap. I'm going to be honest with you. They don't care if you fired him. People, well, if they fire a coach, nobody else is going to want to come there. Get out of here with that stuff, people. They don't care. Nobody cares. But it is, it's just not, you create more. This team has enough going on right now. They don't need more turmoil. That's the long and the short of it. I mean, the fact that they were in these last 2 games and actually had a chance to win them, you can't make a change for that reason, because there actually is still a chance. Not that he saves his job. Don't think that I think that. I don't. This is not about saving his job. It's about saving the season, but not his job. I think that ship has left port. So don't worry. I'm not advocating for that, but I am advocating for not making a change until the season's over. It would be pointless, in my opinion. Trent Sisley's not going to go anywhere no matter what happens. Now, the one curiosity I have is Zerno. Will the IU athletics department have discussions with him? Say, hey, just give us a minute on this, if you please, Will. It's going to be interesting to see that one because he's a piece that would be really nice for the new coach to have coming in. Along him and Sisley would be two nice, really nice recruits to have in the cupboard. And then you go hit the portal. If there's anything left off of this team, which I don't know that there will be, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I think that Mbako is not ready to hit the NBA draft, so I'm not sure. He will probably be snatched up. We'll see. It's you know what it's like. You don't need me to tell you that. You've seen how it goes. And when a coach leaves, you have the opportunity to move about a little more freely. And Jim, we enjoy you, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Brian, that wouldn't be bad for Fred saying that Woody should announce his retirement like Leonard Hamilton did, save grace. Yeah, I don't see that happening before. I can see that happening immediately when the season is over. I can very well see that to save face exactly. But we'll wait and see. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how it happens. That would make it nicer. How does that affect Zerno? I don't know. I think that it may have to do with Brian Walsh. I think Brian is the head recruiter on that. So we'll see how that turns out. But it's not like it's the only recruit that they've lost any time recently. And it's not going to be the last. People lose them all the time. It just would suck for Indiana fans because there hasn't been that much great news in recruiting here of late. There have been more misses than hits. And that is what has been hard for Indiana fans to keep up with. And I get it. But that changes. I'm telling you, that will change soon. I cannot imagine them not getting this next one right. There is no way. No way. I think that Scott Dolson did a fantastic job with, well, I don't have to think, he did a fantastic job with Kurt Signetti. So he knows that this is equally important. And that's hard to imagine, saying that getting basketball right is equally important as football. Now you're putting football up with basketball. Yeah, because you got football right, and it has now overcome the fan support. And if it remained the way it is right now, that chasm would continue. But we'll see. I think that it'll just be interesting where they're going to end up. Man, it will certainly be interesting. I know that there are all of the guesses of names and the easy ones out there, that have been thrown about. Do I think that TJ Elsenberg, I think, to go to Indiana? That's a good question. I'm going to have to say yes, because if he can do what he's doing at Iowa State, you can do it at Indiana. If a coach is successful someplace else, there definitely can be successful in Indiana. Now, will there be more noise, more of everything? Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. Hey, man, big fun day. Indiana taking on Wisconsin tonight. Purdue at Iowa. Tomorrow, Rick Bozit's on to talk about it all. Looking forward to it. Big thanks to everybody for joining us on the program today. Cannot thank you enough, but most importantly, to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.